Hi everyone and welcome to today's video. Today I'm going to be going over colour theory again. Today I'm going to be kind of showing how you can use colour theory. This is going to be quite a basic video, colour theory and its very basics. As you can see, I've got 4 little circles here, so we're just going to kind of try and use colour theory within these small circles. So it's not going to show how to use it on a big picture, if that makes sense. It's going to be very basic, so certain techniques might change as you apply them to different textures, for example. But the basics are still the same, the fundamentals are still the same, so you can definitely apply these techniques and theories used in the video onto pet portraits and equine portraits and such. So if you're watching this on YouTube, then I have kind of a whole colour theory course over on there. I have a video explaining what colour theory is, a couple of PDF sheets, and then I'm also going to have a video on applying colour theory to an actual pet portrait. So feel free to hop over to there if you've not already seen them, and if you are a Patreon member, those are available. I'll pop links on my website as well as in the description if that's easier. But yeah, those are available on my Patreon for you to check out. Okay, so the first circle I'm going to use is kind of explaining the colour wheel. So this was the first PDF, and I'm going to explain primary and secondary colours and mixing colours. So I'm going to use the primary colours, the secondary colours, and some mixes to kind of help show how to mix colours, and I'm going to try and make a natural kind of brown colour that you might use on pet portraits. So here I'm starting with scarlet. All of the colours that I used on my colour chart as well are colours that can be found in the Caran D'Ache Museum aquarelle pencils. So if you're not aware, these are the Caran D'Ache Museum aquarelles, and this paper is rowney Aquafine hotpressed paper. So all of these are the primary colours, hopefully you can see there. And then the secondary colours. So the primary colours are the colours that can't be mixed, and the secondary colours are the colours that are created by mixing 2 primary colours together. And then I have 2 kind of special colours. These are the mixes. So I have a sepia 10%, and it's very small, so I can't show you the number for this pencil, unfortunately. But that's sepia 10%. And this is French grey. And then I have the tint and the tone colours, or the tint and the shade colours, sorry. So this is black and white. I'm not going to swatch those because you should know what those look like. Okay, so I'm going to start off with some light colours. I'm going to start with the yellow and orange. So just covering the whole circle, this is our base. And then again with the orange. Okay, and then I'm going to take a little bit more of the orange and just kind of go around the edge. Just trying to focus this colour a little bit more now. I'm going to take the French grey, and this will just add a little bit more tone to the orange colour. And what that does is it changes it ever so slightly, so I'm hoping to get a nice soft kind of brown colour. And by using the grey, it kind of keeps it nice and soft as well. I'm going to take the sepia 10%, kind of do the same just around the edge to blend these together a little bit more. then take the scarlet. This is a very bright colour, so I'm going to very lightly just kind of go around the edge here. Okay, and then I'm just going to take a paintbrush. So this is a Daily Rowney Aquafine round size 8 brush. Dip it in some water, take the excess off so it's nice and damp, and then blend starting from the circle, the inside, sorry, the lightest part, and then just pushing it to the outside. So this is definitely very kind of bold and golden, but hopefully you can see that the edge is starting to look a little bit more brown. So I'm just going to blend all the outside as well, and my circles are super messy and completely went out the outside. The lines, I am very bad at colouring books. But here again, just blending these together. And it's okay if it's messy. If you've seen my videos before, I've always said the base layers are very, very messy. And it really kind of comes together when you blend dry over the top. If you like kind of the painterly look, that's completely fine. You can leave it like that. I just think it's quite messy, so I like to blend dry over the top of it. But there you go, that's the basic circle so far. You can see how already it's starting to take kind of a more of a brown hue. It's a little bit orangey and yellow at the moment, so that's completely fine. I'm going to go over it with some white to kind of tone that down, change the tint a little bit. Use the greys again to change the tone, and then darken it up with some other colours. But I'll wait for this to dry. I'm going to wait for it to completely dry and then come back to it. Okay, so I'm back and now it is completely dried. I'm very happy with that. So I'm going to, like I said before, change the tint, tone and shade of the piece, and I'm going to add a couple more colours to help do that as well. So again, I'm going to take the Scarlet Red and I'm just going to go around the outside. So red is a brilliant colour to kind of darken orangey based hues, so I'm just taking this Scarlet Red and just going around the outside here, leaving kind of a little bit for an edge light shadow. And hopefully you can see already how that's kind of changing the shape of the ball, really defining it a little bit more. I'm going to also layer it with the orange, and just mixing them really kind of blends the colours together and helps define the piece a little bit more. And then to kind of tone it down and make it a little bit darker, I'm going to take the French Grey, and this will just kind of again give it a little bit more of a browny look. Just going over kind of where we lay the red down. Pushing it ever so slightly into the lighter areas. And there you go. And then I'm also going to now take the purple. So I'm taking the purple because it's a cooler tone. It's on the opposite end of the colour wheel. So I like to use these colours because I find that they make really beautiful kind of shadow colours for a piece. I do these on like bay horses or brown dogs. I find that purple is a really beautiful colour to, kind of shadow your subject. So hopefully you can see there it's really darkening it up quite nicely, softening that shape. Okie dokie, and then I'm going to take the orange again. I'm just going to start focusing on the inner part of the circle now, just to kind of blend the two together. So again, I don't want it too orange, so I'm just going to go over this with the French Grey first. very rough, as you can see, and then I'm going to take the sepia 10% and do the same here, and hopefully this should give it a little bit more of a brown look. I'm just going to push this scarlet up as well ever so slightly, my French grey, and I'm going to take a little bit of the green, kind of a similar reason as I said before. It kind of really helps to shade the piece and pull it together. Green is also very commonly seen in a lot of portraits because colours tend to reflect their background, and obviously like grass and green is seen in quite a lot of drawings and such. Okay, so I'm going to leave that there. I'm going to blend it, and then I think it could do with a white and black over the top to just change the tint and shade. But I'm going to see how this looks when it's blended, and then I'm going to adjust it if needed. So again, starting from the kind of highlight area and then pushing it into the shadows. And you can see how it's starting to look really kind of brown now, a lot more natural. It would make a lovely kind of dun colour or palomino maybe, like a beautiful bay. I'm not sure what like the equivalent dog term colour would be, but a nice brown dog. And all the similar colours. And then I'm just going to blend the outside here. Okay, yes, I'm quite happy with the colours and how they've laid down. I'm going to add maybe a little bit more grey to change the tone a little bit, make it more browny hued, and then I'm going to add the black and the white over the top. But I'm going to let this layer dry and then I'm going to do that. Okay, again, so this is now completely dry. I'm really happy with how that's dried out. So I'm going to just add a little bit more colour and then kind of add some shade, tone and tint over the top. Okay, again, so for the colour I'm going to take the scarlet red and the purple. This is periwinkle blue purple. So I'm just kind of going over the area just to define it a little bit more. Then the purple. Okay, so I'm really happy with that. I'm now going to add the French grey over the top. Again, just to kind of change the tone a little bit, hopefully make it a little bit more brown. And you can see how it's kind of softening that up. I'm going to take it around the very edge. So as you can see, I'm not really focusing on texture, purely just kind of tint, tone, shade using colour. Okay, I'm going to add a little bit more orange just to balance it out ever so slightly, just because it started getting a little bit too cool and I do want to keep it kind of brown. And brown is orange based, so using an orange colour will kind of make it look a little bit more brown. Okie dokie. So now I'm going to take the black, this is our shader colour, and I'm just going to go around the edge very lightly to add a little bit more shade, and this will really kind of define the ball and make it pop out a little bit more. I don't really like using shaded colours just on their own because I find it can kind of make the piece a little bit flat, but I'll show kind of an example why on the circle below. It's good if you're using like monochrome colour palettes and you're just using one colour, but if you're trying to create a realistic coloured pet portrait, I like to use more than one colour to shade a piece. Okie dokie, and then I'm going to take the white just to kind of add a tint to this piece, and it'll soften it down a little bit more and hopefully make it look a little bit more natural. Okay, so hopefully you can see how it completely softened down that yellow because that was quite overpowering. It really made it nice and soft, and now you can see how we've kind of got more of a natural brown coloured hue going on there. So yeah, hopefully that made a lot of sense, and hopefully you can see how we kind of got from these little colours over here to this nice round circle. Okay, so the next circle I'm going to do in kind of a monochrome palette, and again this can be a really lovely palette if it's the type of look that you're going for. I've used it before and absolutely love it. However, if you're trying to create a realistic pet portrait, the more colours the better, like in this piece. But again, I'm going to try and show you how just simply shading, tone, maybe not even tone, how simply just shade and tint can affect a piece. Okay, so I'm going to use our oranges, and I'll just start with this one. So this piece is purely going to be one hue, and then using tint and shade, so black and white, to affect the definition of the piece. Okay, so I'm just going to add a little bit of white, and hopefully you can see already how that's kind of blended it together and made it a little bit more yellowy. There you go. See, hopefully you can see here it looks a lot different to here, and this is just where I used the white, and this is where there was no white. Then I'm going to take the black. And again, this can be quite overpowering to start with, so I'm going to very lightly, super light pressure, just kind of go around the edge here. So yeah, hopefully you can see how it's already starting to get the similar shape that we got here before, just by using this little bit of black. And then I'm going to blend that together, see how that looks, and then apply more colour and shade as needed. Okay, so hopefully you can already see how it's starting to become shadowed, but it's definitely not got the same kind of definition as this piece does, even though the base colour that we used, which was the orange, so we used the orange in here as well, it looks completely different. So I'm going to let this dry, and I'm going to add a little bit more shade, a little bit more orange to it when it's completely dry, and we'll see how that looks. Okay, so this is nice and completely dry, so as I said before, I'm going to add a nice orange to it as well as some more shade, and I think I'm going to leave the tint until the end, so that is the black and white. I'm just going to pop it on here so you can kind of see which colours I'm using. So it's the orange, and the black. And this is the same black and orange that we used before over on this circle. Okay, so I'm going to try and leave the top part of the circle where the highlight would be clear, so we can still keep that as our lovely highlight colour. And with these pencils, I do find the more layers you have, it does help to create kind of a nice blended look. You can kind of build on top of colours a little bit more. There's only so many layers I found that my pencils and my paper can take before you just can't really apply anything on top. So that's why I like to wet it down, give it kind of a little bit of a breather, and then go over it again, and it's just much happier to take more colour that way. And I don't try and press on too hard, so I'm not completely ruining the tooth of the paper, but I do like smooth hot press paper so there isn't too much tooth there anyway. Okay, so as you can hopefully see, when I added the orange over the top of kind of the black shade there, it did start to make it a little bit more ready based. So I'm going to add a little bit more shade, and then I'm going to go over it again with the orange, and hopefully that'll bring out a little bit more red rather than this weird green colour that it's doing. So as you can see, it's going on again, and it's very kind of overpowering, it's very dark, but it's not got that kind of nice depth to it that the circle above does. And again, I think that's purely because I'm just using one pencil to shade, well, two really, but only one to kind of darken the piece up a little bit. Adding the orange over the top, and it's kind of blending it together, but it's not really getting the nice richness that we want in our portraits or paintings. If you're a different type of artist as well, this does still apply. If you're doing landscapes and stuff, other colours definitely help to shade. So you can see how it's making it kind of a nice gold ball, but that's not really the colour we're going for. We definitely want more depth. So I guess if you're going to put it to an animal, I would still be trying to make a bay horse with this technique as well as here, and I think that this definitely suits the bay horse colour a lot more than this does. So I hope that makes sense. This is why this monochrome colour palette doesn't work quite as well for like realistic portraits unless you are purposely choosing a monochrome colour palette. But again, I'll blend it out, let it dry, and then we'll see what we can do with it. Okay, so there you go, it's kind of blended. You can see it's definitely going a little bit more golden than this one. So I think adding the scarlet and other colours like the purples definitely help to give it much more of a richness, kind of closer to a brown, than just adding a shader to the orange pencil does. It does still give it kind of a browny colour, like this part here looks really good. I'd say that's quite a nice brown. But it's definitely not quite as nice as this one over here. So yeah, I hope that makes sense why I've kind of done both these colour palettes and why I prefer this one to this one. But yeah, I did want to show kind of using colour theory and how different palettes affect the final look. I'm not going to mess with this one too much more. I think I've spent enough time on it and I'm not going to improve this piece anymore. It's definitely not going to look like a natural animal coat colour compared to this one. So I'm going to leave this one here. And I'm going to work on this circle instead. Okay, so for the next circle I'm going to do, I wanted to create a swatch using the Analogous colour palette. So these are colours that are kind of next to each other on the colour wheel. They're usually in between primary colours. And I wanted to show this one because it kind of explains how you can darken a colour up using colours kind of next to it on the colour wheel. So this will show how you can use colours on the colour wheel to create depth. There's certain colours on the colour wheel that are a little bit more heavier than others as well. So an example of that is purple is a lot heavier than green. So purple is a brilliant kind of shadowy colour and green is a much better highlight colour. So those are the kind of colours I'm going to focus on for this part of the explanation, I guess. So the highlight colours I'm going to use are the chromium oxide green, the cobalt green. I'm going to also grab the light malachite green. Not sure if I've said that one right, so apologies. Then I'm going to take the light blue, genuine cobalt blue, middle cobalt blue, periwinkle blue, and violet. I'm also going to take actually the dark plum. Okay, so these are our colours. The dark plum is a little bit of a reddy colour, so I just want to let you know. But it's still like next to the purple on the colour wheel, so it still works for this demonstration. So we have the greens, the blues and the purples, and these are all colours that are next to each other on the colour wheel. So I'm going to show you how to blend a circle and create a circle using colours that are next to each other on the colour wheel. And I wanted to kind of use bright colours because there are still quite a lot of bright coloured animals in the world, like, oh my gosh, parrots. I couldn't think of the right word then. Like parrots, or if you are like a landscape artist, this could be useful as well. If you draw people and they're wearing like a bright blue shirt, this might be useful. So I just wanted to kind of, try and cover as many colours as I could. And again, this is in its complete basics, so things might change depending on like what sort of subject you're doing, how the lighting affects the piece in the photo, the background. There's lots of different things that can definitely affect the colours, but this is colour theory in its basics. So I'm just using the blue. This is kind of our mid-tone colour, the green is our highlight, and the blue is our shadow. So I'm just leaving space there for the green to come through. Going around with the blue. And hopefully already you can start to see that our sphere is starting to take shape. Starting to look a little bit more rounded. And then we're going to add our shadowy colours. The purples are not my favourite from this set, unfortunately. They don't layer particularly well. They could definitely be better, but I do kind of love blue and purple and green for this type of demonstration. So basically, kind of the reason that I'm showing this is I just want to show that you can create shadow and light using purely colour. I'm not going to use any white or any grey or any black for this piece. I just want to use pure colour just to show that you can get really nice shadows and colours lighting using pure colour. Obviously these colours have been mixed kind of in the factory, if you like, with tones and tints and shades to create these different types of colours, but I'm not going to do any of the mixing myself. So there you go, hopefully you can see already, this is just the first layer, but hopefully you can see already how we very clearly have kind of a highlight colour, a mid-tone and then a shadow. I'm going to wait for this to dry and then go over it again, but hopefully you can see how it's starting to take shape already, and I've just used these colours seen here, there's no black or white involved with this. Okay, so now this circle is completely dry. I'm going to go over it again with some more colour, basically just to add another layer to blend it together a little bit more. So I'm going to start with the light malachite green. I'm so sorry if I'm saying any of these names wrong, by the way. I'm not sure if I'm getting them all completely correct, but I'm trying my best. Then the cobalt green. And then the blue. So hopefully you can see how the blue is a good mid-tone, the green is a good highlight, and the purple is a good shadow. And these are just the colours that are next to each other on the colour wheel. It also works for like yellow, if you have yellow as your highlight, orange is your mid-tone, and then red is your shadow. You can mix it and have orange is your highlight, red is your mid-tone, purple is your shadow, and just kind of play around with all of the different ones and see which one you like the best, see which one works for you. And again, you don't always see blue dogs or cats or horses, but it's still good to know sometimes how these colours work next to each other on the colour wheel and how they can be applied to your artwork. And then taking the purple, and although these aren't blended perfectly together, I do like how it's coming along, so I think this will be the dry layer. I'm not going to wet this one down anymore. I'm going to add a little bit of blue down here actually, and maybe even a bit of green. So hopefully you can see how the sphere is starting to take shape, and even though we didn't use any kind of blacks or whites, we've just used pure colour. hopefully you can see that it's starting to take shape and starting to form a nice spherical ball. And again, it's not perfectly blended, there's no texture involved on this piece. I'm just trying to create nice shapes and explore colour theory a little bit. Try and explain it and hopefully make sense. So the last one I'm going to use, I'm going to try and again replicate kind of a natural colour. So I'm going to try and create white fur. And I'm looking at a reference photo now, and the reference photo is in kind of a sunny, what's the word, like when the sun's really low, a sunset, oh my goodness, a sunset, it's in the sunset, so the sun's very low and the highlights are very nice and orangey, very bright, and the shadows are very cool, so much more blue toned. So obviously there's going to be no fur texture, but I'm just going to try and put down the colours on this circle so you can see how they work together and hopefully explain how I create white fur using colour theory. Okay, so the colours that I've chosen for the white fur circle is the light flesh 10%. So this is our nice bright highlight, the apricot, another highlight colour, the androquinoid pink, and I'll talk about this one a little bit more when it comes to it, saffron, the, oh my gosh, what's this one called? Light cobalt blue. Sorry, I completely took the name off this one. Think you can see the numbers? Yeah, there's the numbers. So these are the shadow colours, light blue, genuine cobalt blue, and then we're going to use some purple, so we've got manganese violet and periwinkle blue. So as I said before, these are the same, like very next to each other on the colour wheel, so that's why I'm using the purples as well. Okay, so I'm just going to start as I did with the other ones, create a base. So I'm just going to put down the light flesh. Just going to take it all the way around the circle. The apricot. And then we'll leave that there. Take a little bit of saffron. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the blue actually. I'm going to start with the blue shadows. So start jotting those in. And again, it's not exactly accurate for the texture. The way the fur falls will kind of affect where the shadows are. But obviously for the sphere, it's just kind of going around the edge. Then the light blue. Genuine cobalt blue. Yeah, genuine cobalt blue. And then the periwinkle blue. And just very lightly with this one. Okay, so what this is, if I've not already explained it before, is these are the warm colours and these are the cool colours. So we're just using the temperature part of the colour theory to create highlights and shadows. I'm going to take the pink, and so the reason I'm using the pink is because on the colour wheel it's kind of argued to be both a warm and cool colour. So I'm going to take the pink and I'm going to just blend this blue into the highlight. So just kind of very lightly around the edge where the two meet each other. Just filling that in, and it creates a lovely kind of scattered light effect. There we go. Okay, so now I'm going to blend it together and we'll see how that looks. So again, just taking water and a damp brush, starting at the highlight and then pushing that into the shadow. And hopefully you can see how it's starting to blend together. Starting to see the blues now come out. And the nice cool shadows working into the nice golden highlight. And then working the highlight again and blending the shadows. Okay, there we go. So I'm quite happy with that. I'm going to leave that there because I think it's really nice and quite subtle. If I wanted to, I could kind of push it a little bit more, maybe make it a little bit cooler, really increase that contrast. But I think I'm quite happy with how that looks. It's definitely quite subtle, which is perfect for white fur. And yeah, as you can see, these are just the colours that I've used, watered them down and blended them nicely to create a really nice kind of warm and cool effect. So as I did here, I used the cool colours to kind of help create the shadow, and then the warm colours to create the highlight. So I just did the same thing but applied it to kind of a white fur instead of a brown or bay or golden colour. So yeah, I hope you found this video useful. Please let me know if you liked it and you'd like to see more. I do have more videos on colour theory over on my Patreon. Again, I'm going to be using and applying these theories to a full portrait in full detail, really going through how I used it and applied it for every single detail, if you like, of that piece, and how it can be changed when you add texture and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, I hope you've liked it and thank you so much for watching. Goodbye!